In 1995, despite what was then the Israeli government's stated policy, no new settlements.
It was the same kind of process that went back in the 70s. They had officials who were sympathetic, who would help them out. And then these little clumps of mobile homes sprung up all over the West Bank, over 100 of them.
According to an official investigation, for more than a decade, government ministries spent millions on the unauthorized outposts by bypassing procedure and violating Israeli law.
And then a few of them, the settlers said, okay, we're here, the government hasn't pulled us out, let's start building houses.
9 of these permanent houses were built for 9 Amona families living in cramped trailers. Among them, Edith Levingers.
I feel I'm part of these hills. I can't see myself living without them.
But Peace Now, an Israeli organization that opposes the settlements, wanted the 9 houses torn down. Dror Etkes filed a lawsuit arguing that the Amona homes did not have official permits and that they were built on privately owned Palestinian land.
There is no law there. I mean, there is one law, and this is the law of the occupier. If you're stronger, you grab, you take.
The settlers' response? They had a legitimate deal with nearby Palestinians who feared for their lives if the transaction were ever made public.
Our land was bought and paid for. The Arab owners got their money.
But the court ruled that the 9 permanent homes were illegal and ordered them demolished. On February 1st, 2006, thousands of protesters and thousands of security forces came to Amona. Both sides prepared for confrontation. As Israeli soldiers and riot police moved forward, violence erupted. Demonstrators were beaten. Soldiers and police were pelted with rocks.
We wanted to protest the demolition, but nobody intended to harm anyone.
No one was killed, but there were more than 200 casualties, soldiers and settlers. All this over 9 houses on a tiny plot of land.
We didn't think there'd be so much violence. This was a civil war.
The battle ended with the 9 homes torn down. But God's Jewish warriors had sent a message. Evict us from the West Bank, and it'll rip Israeli society apart.
That social conflict is the biggest problem that Israel would have in pulling out. Confronting tens of thousands of people whose deepest belief, who the very meaning of their life is invested in remaining in those settlements.
Edith Levinger's new home is now rubble, but her family and the others remain in their old trailers.
My bond with this place is far more than a house.
But the majority of Israelis would trade settlements for a lasting peace. And Dror Etkes promises more lawsuits.
Basically, everywhere where there is a red, it's considered as private Palestinian land.
He says that while religious settlers took land from their Palestinian neighbors, Israeli officials looked the other way.
This is not politics, it's theology. Theology belongs to the Muslim, religious centers, to the yeshiva, to the Jewish religious study centers. It doesn't belong to modern political system.
Israel became a nation after its 1948 War of Independence. In the ceasefire, Jerusalem was divided, the western part for Jews the eastern part for Arabs. 19 years later, in the Six-Day War, Israel captured the Arab side of the city and declared it part of the Jewish state. But the Palestinians want East Jerusalem for the capital of their own future nation.
Jerusalem is the locus of a bitter, sometimes bloody and nasty national conflict.
But surely the Israeli interest... Danny Seideman is an American-born Israeli, a Jew, a Zionist, and a lawyer who defends Palestinian property rights. He worries that turning a fight over land into a fight over religion makes compromise impossible.
We will be transforming the conflict into a combination of Armageddon, Jihad, Holy War, Sons of Darkness, and Sons of Light, precisely at the time when the interface between Islam, the Arab world, and the West is not exactly user-friendly.
The 40-year tug of war over Jerusalem began when Israel bulldozed the Arab neighborhood next to the Western Wall and built a plaza where Jews now pray. Many of the Palestinians who lived there were moved to this UN refugee camp on the edge of Jerusalem. It's called Shofat, and here they remain refugees in their own city.
The Palestinians want to live in their homeland. We do not want to remain displaced for the rest of our lives.
Musen Nache, a former businessman, is raising 8 children here. There is no regular garbage service. Sewage runs through his backyard.
Animals live a better life than ours.
To go to other parts of the city, Shofat residents must navigate a crowded checkpoint run by Israeli soldiers.
They put the whole Palestinian people in prisons. We're not allowed to move freely. It is hard to go out or to get to work.
And even his home is threatened by this. Israel calls it a security fence to keep out terrorists. Palestinians call it the apartheid wall.
2 years ago, they came and opened up the route for the wall. It was 70 meters from my house.
The Israeli government wanted to demolish Nache's home to build the wall. He had 1 week to get out. Desperate, he took drastic action, documented by a local filmmaker.
I prepared the gas tank. If they come near me, I will blow myself up.
Whenever he saw the bulldozer coming, Nache chained himself to his roof every day for a year, while his lawyer fought the demolition in court. The government ended up building the wall behind the house, but his case is still tied up in court, and his house is still threatened.
We hope that genuine peace prevails in this country. They say that we are terrorists, but who brought us to this place? People are on the brink of hell.
Danny Seideman is Nache's lawyer. He says that while the massive concrete wall may reduce terrorism, it may also backfire.
The same tool that we're using to prevent a suicide bomber from entering this side is going to radicalize them. We're cutting them off from their